Welcome to the Massive Change Show. I'm Justin Foster.
And I'm Dr. Virginia Lacayo. In each episode, we have conversation with leaders who are getting in some good trouble by challenging paradigms and shaking the system.
And after each conversation, the episode shifts to the second show, where Virginia and I chat about what we learned from the guest.
If you know of any leaders who will make a great guest, please introduce us.
And of course, if you enjoy the show, please like, share, and leave a review.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the Massive Change Show. So you'll note in this episode, there is no guest. And that's because we've had a lot of people say that they love the interviews that we do, but they also really love the second show. And so we decided to do every other episode to do a shorter 30 or so minute, no guest episode around a particular question that we've been getting from people, you know, in conversations or on social media or whatever about the state of the world. And so that's what we're doing in this episode, or these kinds of episodes.
Yeah, we're giving them just the second show.
Yes, that's right. But first
and only.
it's like, yeah. So we should call these like the dessert for dinner.
Yeah, dessert first. Yeah.
Don't tell mom. Yeah. So we get lots of questions from people, and but this has been a very common one. So we thought we'd start here, which is, if someone owns a business, a small business, what can they actually do right now related to what could be called, let's call it fascism, authoritarianism, injustice, bullying. Like there's all kinds of different terms for it. We don't need to get into the semantics of it, but like some horrible shit is happening. And it's not just, you know, the headline stuff, a horrible headline stuff is not as front and center, but every day there's horrible shit happening related to things that could be called, you know, certainly called fascist. So most people are they're in either nonprofit or the business world, but especially small businesses, and they're asking, what can we do? And I did a special episode with Juan called "This Is Your Fight Too," and that was a little different conversation around the same topic. So you can see that we're getting this is top of mind for many people, including ourselves. So that's the question. Virginia, we'll start with we'll both answer it, but you go first, please, is what can a small business owner actually do?
Well, I think that from my perspective as an activist and as a system thinking or complexity scientist, I think that it's important to frame the questions within a broader view of what is happening. People are reacting to what they're seeing right now. It's like, oh, I'm seeing eyes on the street and oppression and, you know, a lot of the freedom and a lot of the rights have been violated, etc. That's the reaction to an immediate reality. What I see as a system thinker is a system failure. And that's a very different discussion because, and the discussion in terms of what's happening and what to do about it. It's a system failure because it's not happening only in the US. It's happening all over Central America. It's happening in many of South American countries. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in Asia in many places as well, in Europe in many places as well. So there is this rise of authoritarian regimes that make us question, like, what's going on? Why? Why now? So this is not about one candidate, one party, one group of people doing bad things. And therefore the answer is not, let's get rid of them and put somebody else in place. Because if the system is failing for everybody. And it's failing no matter who is in power. So this is an important framework to start with. Because If it's a system failure, it can only be fixed through a systemic approach. It's understanding what is failing in the system so we can change that, not fix it, because trying to fix a broken system is pretending that we can go back to what it was. And no human being, not living being, including systems, can ever go back in past, can ever be who they were before. They need to evolve into something better. So we need to think of, what do we do with the system, on the system, in the system, in a way that help us evolve the system in a way that this is preventable in the future. It's not about removing things or people or laws or anything. It's about really addressing a systemic issue. Because it's happening here, it's happening in other places, it's not a coincidence. It's a global system failure. And so that's, I think, one of the most important things that I wanted to share regarding this question. The second thing related to that is, because it's a system problem and systems are created, what we see right now is a pattern. It's a pattern of interactions, how the market is interacting with the population, with politics, with institutionalized religion, with ideologies like patriarchy and fascism and racism and classism and etc., is how they are relate with each other, how they are interacting, is creating this systemic behavior. So that means that it's not about just, we're going to change something in the politics. We're going to change something at the party level. We're going to change something at the institutional legal level. No, we need to think of, we need to change all of the parts and the way the parts interact with each other. That means that we are all part of the system. And it also means that only the collective can change a system, can make true systemic change. It's not a group, it's not a party that is going to save us. Nobody, as an individual or a small group, can save democracy. Nobody can save us from the economical situation that we're in right now. Nobody can save us as one or two people negotiating can save the geopolitical situation that we are right now. We have all to step in, do something about it, put our part, because when the collective starts shaking things, the system change. But it's at the collective level only. And that is very important because we have a culture, and especially in the US, I have to say, because Latin America has a different story. But in the US, we have the culture of waiting for somebody else to fix things for us. That era is over. We need to fix our own stuff, and we need to find a way to create some level of agreement of what kind of social imaginary we want to construct from now on, and what it needs to change for that to happen in a way that is also, that permeates also the institutions of the system, the skeleton of the system, to be sustainable. We don't want to create something that one person or one group of people will win the election next time and will be like, that was a fun game that you play, guys, but we're going to go back to our ways. We need to do it in a way that is set, not in a stone because nothing is, but is set in a way that will prevail no matter how, the ideological tendencies go back and forth. So that was my first reaction. Very passionate about it.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you've been, as when we were talking a couple of weeks ago, you said, we were talking about this, and it's kind of new to people that look like me in the U.S. Straight white people. But you said, I've been dealing with this shit my whole life. and so it's not new to you. It's not that surprising that it's happening. But anyway, so here's my answer. And it comes down to clarity. It comes down to clarity, and it comes down to something you've taught me about, like, it's like critical thinking, not about just like news and information, but about your own mind. And so the first clarity that you need if you're a business owner and you feel this thing in your heart that you need to do something other than like post about it maybe on Facebook or whatever, is you need to understand how conditioned our minds are to not do anything. We are conditioned for apathy about this. Years and years and years of like keep work and personal separate, and business and politics don't mix, and all of the conditioning that we've had around this, we need to throw that shit out the window, because we have to understand that we were conditioned to feel that way, so we don't do anything. We don't really do anything. And if you go talk to other business owners that are primarily Black, brown, or queer people, they don't do that. They may have to do code switching in order to deal with the systems they're in, but they don't make that separation. So that's there needs to be clarity around that, of like letting go or deconstructing or whatever you want to call it. Like, this is real, because if you doubt it, if you're like, well, I don't know what my place is, or I don't know what to say or do, that's the apathy that the oppressive systems rely on. The other thing is clarity about your place in history. If we were to go back and look at fascist regimes in Italy or Spain or Germany in the 1920s, 30s, that era, you would see that the proletariat, the middle class, what we would call like the suburban class, which includes like many business owners, shop merchants, professional services people, it felt like it wasn't their thing because it wasn't happening directly to them, unless like they were like in Germany, unless they were Jewish or something. And so the place in history that would be more relevant to look back to what, if you're from the United States and you're a business owner, to the civil rights era. And there are many examples of white small business owners in the South and in the North that took a stand for civil rights. And there's a number of different things that they did, but they understood their place in history in that moment. And this is a phrase that it's a common phrase that we've adopted it in the way that we talk about what we do, about being on the right side of history. And because most of us are immersed in this ideological spectrum of left versus right, we don't often think about being on the right side of history as a business owner. Being against things that are dehumanizing or unconstitutional or unconstitutional is being on the right side of history. It shouldn't even really be an argument. It's more of a decision if you're going to accept this point in history. So those are kind of the inner dialogue things. And I could go even deeper in that, related to just how deeply conditioned we are to feel sympathy but do nothing. Well, it's so bad for them. I'm gonna, and so there's that. Now there's clarity around what to do with your business. And there's a couple of things there. Is you gotta have some,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Before
No,
you
please,
say
yes.
you go there, I would like to add something.
Sure, please.
It's part of our culture to protect ourselves, especially the North American culture, and the global North culture is less communal, is more individualistic. So it's more about what is in it for me and how can I protect myself and my small circle first, and then see the world as something else, outsiders, like, oh, the others the world is this, instead of I'm part of that world. So that separation in the psyches hurt everybody. That's one thing. That's cultural, is true. But to the benefit, let's say, to provide some little benefit of the doubt, or, for the people that are behaving that way, is also from a system thinking perspective, is also that we, especially in the United States, that we're not used to have, like other regions in the world are used to see authoritarian regimes raising, and now we react like, I know this. This is familiar. I know what is coming, and we need to react now. The United States has not a lot of memory about that kind of things, so they don't identify it as quickly. And authoritarian regimes, dictatorships, fascist regimes, work in a very subtle way. It's not like we expect, like, because that's what we see in the movies and the news and in other parts, that for us to say, oh, this is a authoritarian dictatorship regime or something like that, we expect to see tanks on the street, and we expect to see bombs, and it's not happening yet. So we are like, oh, this is awkward, this is off, something is not right, because this kind of system permeate society in a very, at the beginning, and I see it's a pattern, you can see it everywhere. At the beginning seems almost like boring. A lot of executive decrees, some laws here and there, a lot of distraction in the media, like making dramas and scandals so you don't see what's really happening behind the scene. A lot of, people getting fired because they hire other people. It seems like almost politics as business as usual, politics as usual, and kind of boring. But those small things, I'm going to use a metaphor that I think is important for everybody to remember. Remember the story of the frog in the boiling pot?
Right.
That you get the frog on a lukewarm water, like normal water, and you turn on the fire, and the frog start adjusting the temperature of its own body to level up, to balance the water that is getting warmer and warmer and warmer, to the point where when the water is actually boiling and start cooking the frog is already depleted and cannot jump out of the pot. So, guys, gals, folks, we are the frog. We are the frog. Is the way these kind of regimes establish themselves in the system and create the roots is like the boiling water in the pot. It's so subtle at the beginning, so almost boring, so almost like it makes us react like, well, this is not gonna last. Or I feel bad, as you say, I feel bad for them, but somebody's gonna stop this, or somebody should have stopped this, or maybe it's gonna go away. It's just a matter of time. And the point is that by the time we find out that was not the case, and actually we've been cooked, it's already too late for us to jump out of the pot. So this is the time to recognize those patterns. And you can see other places in the world and history to identify that the patterns are exactly the same. Different ideologies, exact same patterns. So this is a time when we can still jump out of the pot instead of waiting to be boiled.
Yes, that's a great reminder of that story. And that is how, especially democracies, become more fascist, is they do it slowly like that. It's not a revolution, like we always, history reminds people that, like, the Jim Crow laws and the people that was the white supremacists that were elected to office and all of that and all that shit in the South, that was all legal. It was all by the law, and Hitler was elected, like, it's not, democracy does not protect itself from authoritarianism. Engaged citizens do.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
the most boots on the ground people are small business owners. They're part of the communities and they know everybody, and they do. This is why we're talking about this. So thank you for saying that. So I want to go back to some clarity things. One is, legal clarity. Get a civil rights lawyer on speed dial. It's well worth a couple $100 to sit with them and say, what are my rights as a business owner? And I am not a lawyer, but I would say, for example, around what you can do if federal agents show up at your door and claim to have a warrant, because legally they can lie about their warrant. That's been held up in court, that they can lie that they have a warrant, but you have rights too. Or filming them, you have whatever they say, you got to know your rights. You have to have clarity about your rights and the legal issues at hand. Even with if you do have employees or customers or people in your community that you think that they are going to be targeted by ICE. The second part, though, is sort of like, it's called like factual clarity. Because this entire thing is based off of a lie. Fascism, authoritarianism is always based off of a lie. There's always a false enemy. It's all propaganda. It's basically what I've referred to as collective narcissism. And so it's all based off of a lie. But there's just enough little nuggets in it that it makes you question yourself. And so maybe you're like, well, what they're doing, is I don't want murderers and rapists that are here illegally in our neighborhoods. Well, no fucking shit, you don't. Nobody is advocating for that. So when I'm talking about factual clarity, that is understanding that who they say they're going after, they're not doing, because there's the large majority of these illegal basically kidnappings by federal agents, and building this horrific thing of just looking into what's happening factually with building what can only be called concentration camps or holding centers. The kind of people that they're seizing and holding and deporting are not criminals. Only a tiny percentage of them are, at a much lower percentage than citizens that are criminals in the neighborhoods, that you have. There's far more criminals in this administration as a percentage than there are violent criminals that are being detained and deported. It's a lie. And there's a bunch of other those things too. And the reason I bring that up is because it's really sort of like it's like a gas mask against gaslighting about it. When you start to get blowback from people, they'll say things, they'll get very binary. Oh, you're for open borders? Oh, you're for murders and rapists in your neighborhoods? That's all he's doing. The only way to fight a narcissist is with the truth, to have your facts straight. So you got to get that right, because you got to be able to handle the blowback from that standpoint. And the last part of what I would say here is, let's just call it brand clarity. The single best tool you have outside of like maybe financial resources to protect some of your employees or customers is your brand itself. And it is the lever. It goes back to something, Virginia, you said at the beginning, is no one's coming to rescue democracy. And there is a sort of a mirroring effect, or like a social currency of watching other business owners take a stand. And, we make fun of influencers, but they have many of them that are in the fitness industry, in the fashion industry, in the wellness industry, many others. They have used their feed and their hundreds of thousands of followers to say something, to take a stand. And every time you use your brand to take a stand, you shatter a lie that's happening. You shatter this false separation that when they say stick I don't know why you're talking about politics. You shatter that lie. If you don't, you can't do that quietly. You can't do that like, well, I'm just going to tell my employees and customers that they're, I'm an ally and I can support them. I'll support them. That's wonderful. Please do that. But your single greatest tool is your brand. And that boils down to, sometimes you can be very brash about it and direct, like our friends at Cluck Hut, that are very, very clear about where they stand related to fascism. But you could do it according to your own voice. You can make it about love, or you can make it about being a good neighbor. You can make it about your own conviction about what it means to have integrity, or if you're a Christian, what it means to practice Jesus's teachings through love in your business. It all comes down to messaging and consistency. So you got to figure out what you're going to say, and then you got to say it, and then you got to be able to stand your ground when you get all of the blowback, because you will. And the blowback is not designed to change your mind. The people that are giving you shit aren't that smart. The blowback is designed for the system that created these conditions to make you doubt yourself so that you shut up. Or you'll get the apathetic people, the people in your Vistage group or at the Chamber of Commerce or the Rotary Club, like, oh, wow, you're really stirring things up, aren't you? Aren't you losing business? And you can just basically extrapolate from the disaster that is Pam Bondi and her hearing in Congress, where she decided to bring up how good the stock market is doing and people's 401ks are as a justification for why for not releasing more, or why they're doing the largest cover up in the history of the government with the Epstein files. You can use your version of that too, because that loops back around to the social conditioning that we've all been conditioned, that if we want to get paid and we want to be safe and secure, and we want to make our house payments, and we want to go on our vacations, then we have to be quiet about things that bother us. And the very best thing that is happening from this, other than we are reshaping business by business what it means to be a voice and a light in the community, what we're doing is we're breaking down all that old conditioning. And it's painful and it's scary. But as I've said again and again and again, if people that look like me, if we don't do this, what are we here for? You wanted a noble thing to do that you can tell your grandkids about. This is it. Is I stood up. I stood up. Again, I probably have said this too many times for those of you that are listeners but it's such an important quote, because it's like 2,200 years old, something like that, is the quote from Plato, that the price of apathy is to be ruled by evil men. And apathy is legacy, but so is saying something, standing up. And watch what happens if you do it. And again, you can do it in your own voice. You don't have to be, profanity laced like I am. You can do it in your own voice, in your own ways. The world awaits what you're going to do. And so when you loop back to the question, what can I do? I would make it my final thought here, and I'll toss it to you for final thought, Virginia, and then we'll say goodbye. My final thought is, most of the time being an entrepreneur is a spiritual calling. We're just not wired for corporate life. Is get into your heart and do what your heart says to do, and tell your mind to shut the fuck up. That's really the starting point. If you want to know what to do, start by getting into your heart and listening to what your heart has to say. That's my final thought on this topic. Back to you.
And as I say many times, love and passion are essential, but you also need the skills. And I think that is important for entrepreneurs that are asking that question are people, the people that ask our question, that question to us are people already convinced that they want to do something, that they want to stand up and say something and do something. They just don't know what to do, because that's part of the skills that we can learn. So
Mm-hmm.
the good news is that you have way more power than you think you do. You are not, you're just not a brand with a voice and a platform that can say the truth. You're also a power hub in your community. You hire people, you hire vendors, you can protect your community. You're a reference, a thought leadership in your community, because you're the go-to place for certain things. So people care about you, listen to you. You're a center of reunion in many ways. You have money to invest. You have customers, and you have a community, and you have your allies, and you have your peers. I mean, seriously, you have way more power than you think you do. It's just a matter of knowing how to use that collective pieces of power in a way that is highly effective to mobilize your peers, your vendors, your providers, your customers, and your community around a certain, the same objective, and to protect each other, and to protect not only democracy, but to build the system we want to have for ourselves and for the next generations. So there's few things that, besides, I mean, the minimum you should do, honestly, is what Justin just said. Use your platform, use your voice, follow your heart, stand up. But you can move a few steps forwards and be more effective. You can learn, develop the mindset skills you need to get the blow up. I mean, to really not just hold, but manage, and like a good jujitsu, turn around the hate. And that's mental skills. You can also understand how system works, so you know what are the leverage points. We don't move the system by pushing the world. We move the system by creating, how you said, leverage, right? I mean, that you tweak, is the butterfly effect. You do one thing, small thing, one place, and that will have ripple effects. But you have to understand how the system works to know where are the points to tap into. And then you have to learn how to use your brand effectively. It's not just about using it and saying things, but you can make it in a less or more effective way. So do it effectively, so it has an impact. And finally, it's not just you. You are a power hub. Activate your community, leverage your community, organize them in a way that the community is that where power really happens and what change really happened at the collective level. And you have the microphone, you have the platform, you have the place that can become a point of encounter for that community to self-organize and fight for what they want, for what is their right, actually. And again, the good news, you have way more power than you think you have. You have all it takes, except maybe some skills that are absolutely easy, relatively easy to learn. And you have resources to learn them, to really do it. And it should not take that much time. You can be prepared you can start right now, and then you can develop yourself and your skills in a short time to start making a massive impact before the water starts boiling for real.
Great. Thank you. All right, y'all. Thank you for listening. See in the show notes for some of the things that we are making available to entrepreneurs and founders that want to get in good trouble. And stay tuned for additional episodes of the non-guest versions of the Massive Change Show. Thanks.